Inspiration Nation. Hello, Lee Kemp here for another week on the podcast. As always, live with my very good friends, Jose Noya, Ryan Boniface. How are we doing this week, guys?
Good, thank you, Lee.
Yeah, really good. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's good.
Glad to hear it. We are, of course, live. We are on YouTube streaming live. We are on TikTok streaming live. Join us each and every week. We will signpost for our social medias when we're going live, but it's 6 o'clock one day during the week. Jose Noya, Inspiration Nation on YouTube, and @Noya_Inspiration on TikTok. Follow us, we'll signpost it all. And of course, Twitter @ListenToIN, ListenToIN. All the details are there for you as well. So, this week, who is up to the podium for conversation? Joe,
I think,
you're
Lee.
pointing to the sides, Joe, but on my screen and on everyone's screen, you're at the bottom, so that doesn't really help.
Oh, on my screen, he's pointing to me.
Okay.
I think it is me.
Can you give a name? You're not helping. You're not helping. This is terrible audio for anyone listening as well.
You know who it is, TikTok.
Apparently, TikTok know who it is. It's me.
Ryan, you are up.
I am up. I want to talk this week about professional pride.
Okay.
And what I want to talk about is how we can hunt our egos into the outfield, or how we can deal with losing a piece of work that we've looked after for so long and generally successfully. How you guys have managed to deal with that, hopefully successfully, and any tips you have for the people that are listening at home. What do I mean by professional pride? Well, professional pride is, well, it kind of tells you what it is, but it's pride in a job that you've done.
Is it pride in being a professional?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. I mean, that it can come in many different ways. Oh, the obvious one is work, but Lee's mentioned a lot that he's done a lot of DIY around his house. Probably quite proud of the work that he's put into that. And if somebody came around,
You should see the results.
like,
you should be proud. I should be proud.
yeah,
We should all be proud.
Someone might come around that's a professional redecorator and be like, "Cool, those skirting boards look a bit rubbish," and that would really wound Lee's ego. Wouldn't like it one bit.
Wouldn't happen either. That's why I did a little bit of that this morning, in fact. I feel that's not the point of your conversation, so I'll stop now. Just here, right
No,
next
that's all
to
right.
me.
That's all right. It can come in many forms of life. Professional pride. It comes under many different banners: personal pride, professional pride, whatever. Sometimes your partner or whoever might make you a meal that isn't as good as the last time they made it, and if you choose to be brave enough to make a comment on things like that, then that can wound their personal pride as well. How we are receptive to that, often criticism, compared to what we display. Now, the flippant response, if someone was to critique your work or something you've done at home, would be to be like, "I don't care what you think, go away," or words to that effect. That isn't always as easy to do in a work environment. You have to kind of take these things on the chin. And a lot of the time with change at work, unless you are the person that runs the business or the area or the department, the decision's taken out of your hands. There's nothing you can really do about it. That pride being wounded and that ego being wounded, you don't really have anyone to vent to that will actually be able to make a change to what is happening. So it's almost falls on deaf ears. I wouldn't say it does fall on deaf ears, but it can do in terms of the outcome. Because sometimes the need of business or the department or the team is more than the need to satisfy one person's ego. I'm sure those of us that have worked in a corporate world, or even in not a corporate world, it happens in all walks of life. You know, people that work in kitchens that are trained up to be, people start as pot washers and they work their ways up to be sous chefs and then head of house. You know, if somebody comes in and makes them clean pots or plates or whatever, that can wound their ego as well, because you've developed yourself through, and you shouldn't be above doing any job. I firmly accept that. Once you've learned to do something more and you've developed out of that original instruction or the baby steps of a role, you don't feel as though you need to go back and do that sometimes. So it comes in many forms and many different ways. But the most common way I would say is, you know, something gets changed around you and you have to kind of adapt to losing a responsibility or an area that you actually put a lot of effort into. So I'm curious to know what you guys think.
I want to ask
From a
you a question.
starting point.
Can I ask you a question first?
Yeah.
What's been your experience of? Have you lost anything in that sense? And what was it? Because we can learn from the failures, right? Or learn from how we handled it.
Yeah. I mean, I've lost Lee as my upline, and that was quite heartbreaking.
I'd imagine that's devastating would be the word I would
Horrible.
use.
Horrible. You made my career, so it's hard. It's hard to do it without you.
But he's doing it anyway.
I think
Life
I'm going
after
through a
leave.
change. I'm going through a change currently where I'm losing an element of a job that I've done well for years and know probably better than anybody else in the whole business that I work in. But that's just because I've been so close to it for so long. That doesn't mean that I'm devastated about it and I'm throwing my toys out of the pram. But there is an element of this was what I knew. This is what I was good at, and this is not who I am, because that's not fair. I'm more than that, but this is what I'm known to be good for. The way I combated that, which is probably where your follow-up question was going to go, was that my skills and my knowledge and what I'm good at are transferable across the piece. I'm not just good because I'm good at that one part of my job. I'm good because I'm good at my job. I'm knowledgeable because I know all parts of my job, not just that bit that I'm losing. It's okay in the sense that I have those parts, but also there's a sense of pride in both sides that A, my ego's been wounded, as I mentioned, and B, I'm sending it off better than how I found it, I think is how I would explain it. And that you can always take solace from things like that, right? You can always kind of, if even relationships with people, if you leave people better than how you found them, then you've done a good job.
That's a Lee classic, isn't it?
That was my mantra for last year. Obviously not just last year. I'd like to continue that through. But
Just last year.
yeah, then I was
Now he's just
done
horrible.
with that.
Now he's just horrible.
I just spit on people as I walk past them in the street now.
Oh, that's disgraceful.
Back to
like.
2019, Lee, before he was banned because of COVID.
Oh, gross.
So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. I was looking for something where we failed at, because I say, because this one I did have one where I felt, when you talk about ego being hurt, I had one where I remember setting up a coaching team at one of my places I used to work. There became a lot of operational pressure, let's say, and I built this team up, all coaching. Well, it wasn't coaching actually, but that's another story. I don't want to go into that. What I thought were coaching wasn't coaching. It's another story. Operational pressure came to bear. And of course, when operational pressure comes to bear, it says, all hands to the pump. Everything else goes out the window. But I was thinking, this is where my ego got involved. And this is why I find it difficult. I was thinking, what is going on? Yes, I know all this hands to the pump, but that's a very short-term solution to a short-term solution. We need a long-term fix. And even though even to this day, I still believe that was the right thing. And then I said, right, if we're going to do this, if you want me to commit to this and I can't invest time in these people to have the long-term gains, then I can't continue running this coaching team. And then they decided we're getting rid of the coaching team. And I went, oh my God, this is terrible. And that's what happened. And I invested loads of stuff into it. I put everything into it, but then they disbanded it. They just got rid of it. I went, oh my God. And I found it so hard. And I think the learning from this is, although sometimes big organisations aren't going to agree with you, what I took from it is that I gained a lot of skills from doing that. And that sent me on my path to my coaching journey. Although I didn't agree with the decision, I understand why they did it. Although I still think to this day, it's still a short-term view, though understanding to do certain things. Really, maybe what could I have done differently? I maybe could have said, hey, instead of saying we've got to stop this, I could have said, well, maybe we could do some sort of version of it and keep the thing alive, keep it alive in some way, shape or form, but I didn't. I almost panicked a little bit. This is back in the day, and I suppose my experience wasn't quite there, where I almost reacted emotionally rather than have that emotion, but respond instead of, like I talk about all the time, right? Respond instead of reacting to it. And this was my baby. I loved it. I built it. It was great. People invested in it. But what I felt a bit of betrayal, because some people had supported it. When this started, pressure from high above started saying, we've got to do this done. Everything else seemed to go out the water, instead of actually saying, actually, this stuff is really good for long term. But hey, look, I can't change that. I had no control over that. So that was not my decision. And that's what you're talking about, that decision where it's out of your hands, where I still struggle with that to a bit, because I struggle with that still to this day a little bit, but I've got to really check myself to go, hey, that is out of my control. That is nothing I control. That I've just got to go with it. In fact, a lot of the things that I see, this is the vision, right? And we talked about this before, that I'd like this to happen. I'd love it to happen this way, but I've got to let go of that specific version of it and let it adapt and roll. And that's the learning that I got from this particular lesson. 1, to let go. 2, to have a different version of it. It may not be the version that I thought it would be, but have a different version. It may have been better if I'd done that, but I just will never know now, because we just basically got rid of it. But then, we're leading to all this, right? So I'm just trying to say to people here, on TikTok, say hi there, Andrea, appreciate you, and all the people live here on the recording with YouTube, that don't try and have an overall vision, but be okay with it adapting, because it may be something that's even better. And in fact, I think where I am right now in terms of what we're trying to do is better, and we're doing this as well, which is better. So all in all, it's working out okay. But at the time, I really felt angry. I felt frustrated, and I wish I'd had something like you guys to come and talk to, or to give me a little bit of balance, to say, look, just go with it, just do what you can at this moment, but do this, but just do what you can, and just keep it going in some way, shape, or form. That's if I could have given myself advice then, that's the advice I would have given to myself. Right now, I would say, just go with it, but just keep it alive in some way, shape, or form. It might be a smaller version of it, but keep it going, because that's your your thing, your passion, the thing that's going to contribute. In the long run, they'll probably see that actually when that initial fire is put out, that actually going back into that is going to be a good long-term game. So actually, I've just thought that through. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ryan, for this question, because that's taught me through actually a thought process of actually doing it. So thank you. Yeah, I think it's a really good subject, by the way. So thank you, Ron. Yeah, like that.
Good bit of self-coaching there, Joe. Doing there live on the podcast. Love it. So there's a couple of concepts that come to my mind with this, Ryan, and I talk, and these concepts are things that come through personal experience with it as well. One is change, and there's a natural human reaction to change. It brings uncertainty. Often, like you said, outside of your own decision process, it forces you out your comfort zone when you might not have been expecting it. All the things that come up. So you get that natural human reaction to change, and what skills and resilience you've got in dealing with that, which you build up over time. And the second and most important thing, and it resonates a bit with what we've talked about, is circles of control. And I know we talk about this quite a bit, but within that, and like you said, there's decisions have been made, things are happening, the ball is rolling. What can you control and what can't you? And as with everything, it's how you react to it.
Yeah.
So no matter what is removed, no matter what you're given, it's down to you to decide, am I going to do the best I possibly can do with whatever this new situation is? Or am I going to take my eye off the ball and try and cling on to what was there that kind of ultimately shoots yourself in the foot because you're not doing the best with what you've got? And I've gone through numerous, and it's weird. One way I'd say my job almost has never changed, because the skills I use are the same skills, and I build and develop and I go on with them. And secondly, it's changed a lot because the actual subject matter has changed more times than I can count. As I've worked in, fast growing organisation, lots of change, things happen with it. And a thing I learned quite early on and then reinforced myself is almost no matter what challenge I'm given, make the best out of it. Because if you can make the best, if you can deliver on whatever that thing is, people will see that and they will want to utilise you here, there, everywhere. It creates opportunity by being a yes, I can do type of person. And that's not to say that when you get given something, your immediate thought should be, right, what's next? But it's that kind of whole being ready mentality. It's just giving whatever it is, how big it is, how small it is, whatever it's involved in. And I've had changes that have happened that completely ego driven within the constructs of the kind of industry you work in. People be like, oh, well, that's a demotion. But it's how you frame it. Because actually, and we talked about this before, every job in every organisation, you gave your view there, Ryan, the kind of kitchen behind the doors type of thing. Every job is important, and the business needs every job to be done to its best. So whatever you're given, they've given it to you because they want you to do your best at delivering on that. And if you do, that again, it opens doors, it opens opportunities. People want to come to you for help. And I think that knowing that and doing that and living and breathing that is, back to your thing about this situation, is really, really important, because ultimately businesses, organisations, charities, teams, whatever you're involved in, they need things to happen. And sometimes that will be things that lean to what you want to do and your strengths, and sometimes it's things that might not, but they're the things that need doing. And I think as much as you can and should shape what you do around what you like and push for what's important, also be aware of, well, what does my boss need? What does the team need? What do my friends need? And be adding that value. And I think you can do the same concurrently. And I think if you're in that space, that just, again, back to the pride thing, I think pride comes from doing a good job far more than what the job is. Took me a long time to get there, but that would be my little summarisation on the end.
I think
No,
it's
you're right.
it's one of those things that becomes worlds easier the more that you have it happen to you.
100%.
Because you lose the protectiveness, because you know after a while that it's always going to happen and it's always going to change, and that's the way these things are. And as you've just said, the nature of the line of business we work in is quite common that those changes happen, semi-regularly. I think my biggest advice, or the way that I would look to combat it the most, is trying to get into something that you can then put all the energy you were putting into that into something new and bring that forward. Whether that's the new role or the new task or the replacement function that you're given in lieu of the one that you had going, or something as a side project or something else, or however, just reinvest that energy. Don't waste it, because as we said earlier, the skills are transferable. What you've got and what you've learned doesn't disappear because the way you apply it disappears. Being aware that things are always going to change kind of makes you more resistant to over caring and being overprotective of it, which means that when you have miniature changes or ongoing developmental changes through the job that you do, again, you're less protective of it. There are some times where you're involved in a project or you're involved in a team and you're so in depth with it that when somebody comes along and provides some usually constructive feedback to help you better the outcome of it, you're really that protective that you're like, hands off, it's mine, what are you doing? Whereas having that, not fear factor that it's always going to leave you, but awareness that things do change, it kind of means you leaves you to be more open for the changes that will approach.
Yeah, I think you've referenced, on multiple podcasts over the years, Ryan, as it is now, about being a realist, and I think that's one of those realist things is, and in work and in life and in everything, change is inevitable.
Yeah.
And that's it, is being accepting that things will change, and how do I go with it rather than how do I fight it is such an important step.
Personally, my personality doesn't like change that much. Whilst I'm bad with routines, I like a generalized routine of knowing what my day looks like, what my week's going to look like, and how that kind of goes. Now and again, I like a little spanner thrown in the works, but that's just my spontaneity streak.
Just to spice it up once in a while.
Yeah, of course, right? But generally speaking, I think most people are like this. You tend to like to have a framework of how your week, month, day, hour is going to look. So it kind of keeps you to a track. It keeps you to a plan of things that you need to do. If it was completely haywire all the time, then we'd never get anything done. And if it's too regimented, then we'd never have time to think or breathe or feel, So it's all about finding that middle ground. I think what you touched on, Lee, about spans of control was also really important, because the pride that you show, if it's a decision taken above your head, what can you do about it? Like, it all boils down to what can you do about it, and the answer more often than not is not a lot. So what's as easy said than done, but what's the point of fretting over it? You've just got to find a way.
It's it, and it's not necessarily easy. You can't just say, "Oh, I won't care," but it's pushing yourself, and it is that, because, and if you want to challenge it, is your reason because there's a genuine reason that you think should be considered in that decision making process, or is it a self-serving reason that you don't want it to change? And if it is, you don't. Even if this is the basis for why you wouldn't do that, you don't do yourself any favors if that's what you're portraying, that you want decisions made to suit you rather than being what is best. And even that can be a reason to be like, well, let's slow my roll a little bit and let's think about this and what's the best way to deal with this.
It's a really selfish example, and only you'll know this, but there's a lot of change going on with where we are, Lee. There was something that you rolled out that we were asked some questions on, that I fed back some questions on, and a few years ago I could see myself writing those questions being like, they're changing all that we're doing, I hate it, what's the point of this? But now it's like, now I just have a different mindset to these things. Now it's like, well, this is obviously going to help us. And I think I queried one specific thing where I was like, actually, no, we do this because of X that perhaps the wider population won't know because they don't manage the way that we do. And that's where that control and asking the question the right way. And again, it's a really personal example that only.
But it is, you're right. It's down to how you frame stuff. There's a difference between a question or a suggestion as opposed to a challenge.
Yes, Yes, exactly that. And sometimes it's okay to challenge. And I think we've had that discussion before. It's
Oh,
okay to be
yeah.
comfortable enough to challenge, of course. But again, when it's out of your control and you know that it's about picking your fights. Some really good relationship advice I got from somebody that I know was the best relationships last longest by picking the battles that are worth fighting. You two that are in committed relationships. I'm still single. Will know
Ladies,
that
take
picking
note.
battles is of
Well,
is important.
email us.
Email us, yeah, don't.
No, you're
Um,
right. As a phrase that I use
and this,
often in conversations with people, where it's almost like and I've had this. People have said this to me, or I've said it to them. But is this the hill you want to die on? If this is
Yeah.
going to be your thing you stake, is the outcome that important to you?
yeah,
And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no.
more often than not, you can tell when the answer is going to be yes. I would say. But also, if you're the person that's being challenged, rather than, if you're in the lucky position where you're able to make these decisions that may feel like they benefit a department or a team or something, then it's just being open to the fact that people will have that pride. It's all well and very good being once having our egos burnt or constricted. It's not often that we're the ones that do the burning or the constricting. So it's important to remember that if you're ever in those positions, to consider the feelings of the people that you're doing it to as well.
I think that's good advice, because it's again to people who will be, or in the future or are now or whatever on the other side of that fence. Is there the change cycle happens, and there will be resistance, but it doesn't. And whilst that could be seen as a negative trait, it's not coming from a negative place, and you almost we've done this in professional advice round, where you then run forums to talk to people. You just give space to air that, and some of it just needs space. Some of it actually flushes out really good points. Some of it is talking points, and it's just there's a way to react on the other side of the fence as people go through the. Because and we talked about it sometimes. You can't skip the change cycle; it happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
I totally agree with you. And again, I'm with Ryan that I am better with change. I still don't like it, but I'm much better with it. It's something I have to really, really work on, and recognise that everything will change is so important.
Because it's happened so often. It's because it's always happened. You just get to grow used to it. Some people have a fear of the dentist, but you start to get used to it because you have to go, and
Or
it's
you
no
don't go for
different to
15
that.
years like me, one or the other.
One or the other.
No, I totally really loved this, and as I say, I think it's so important, isn't it, that that you do adapt. I think adapt to the situation, still keep whatever it is that you have, close to you, because I say, you don't want to lose the thing that drives you. And I think there's a lot of things, like you said, about caring about the people that are impacted by this decision and thinking about them, but also remembering that you really want everybody to win. That's the key, I think, for me, is like everybody wants to win. So what is the win for everybody? How can you make that happen? And I agree. I think you shouldn't capitulate, but you should put your points across, but put it in a way that that you're open for discussion, and it's open to debate and open to change and open to include whatever you can in it, and understanding everything. And as I say, Lee, you're right. Sometimes you just need space to talk about it and allow people to talk about it, which is so important. So that I think is a real key, and actually listening to people, I think, is key, and actually acknowledging it and saying why it can't happen, why it can happen. And when you get that clarity, it definitely helps me when those things happen, where people do say, well, this is why it's happening. I hear what you're saying. This is why it's happening. It's really, really clear about why the change is happening. If change is done really well, it can be really healthy, because you can, change's got to happen. Otherwise, we end up just being dinosaurs, don't we? End up becoming outdated and outmaneuvered, and we can't, especially in this day and age, we've got to move quickly. As you can see right now, the world's changing, AI, all that sort of stuff, and we've got to accept that, and we've got to embrace it and do the best we can with the things that are coming our way. And that goes for all the organisations we work for.
Agility is key.
It is.
Can I also just congratulate you on the use of the word capitulate, Joe? That word a day calendar is clearly working out well for you. So, good work.
I used the word cantankerous today.
Oh, you did? That's a good one. I like that word.
I did. Yeah.
That is
wow.
That's a personal favourite, that one.
Perfectly cromulent word, that one. So,
brilliant.
We're coming up on a half hour now. This is where people get bored of our rambling, so it's time for us to wrap it up. Great conversation. Appreciate this one, right? It's really good. Everyone out there listening, supporting us wherever you are, YouTube, TikTok, podcast players, whatever you are on, just go to that main screen, hit subscribe, hit the 5-star button, leave a review. Those things really help us get involved in all the algorithms and all the platforms. So if you like what you are hearing, please, please, please do that. I know you say it every week, but it really, really does help us. That is our plea to you. Also head over inspirationnation.org.uk, everything to the podcast there. Sign up for Joe's newsletter. Just click on the blog section and there's the Inspiration Nation store where you can look as stylish as I do right now in one of these. Let me turn around and show it. Jose Noya Inspiration Nation hoodies. Get yours over there. Get your mugs somewhere for the camera. Here is mine, which again I will hide that I use it to store stuff in, but my mug will sometimes come into shop. Face mask, Joe's got there, all over inspirationnation.org.uk. And again, tell friends, tell family, hit all those buttons. We massively, massively appreciate the the support, easy for me to say. And just follow Joe on socials. Just put Jose Noya Inspiration Nation into your Google machine. He is all over the place. And we, as a show, are on Twitter at Listen to I Anderson, TOIN. And my final plug is you can join us live every single week when we record on YouTube and on TikTok. Just follow us and we'll signpost when it's happening.
Can I give a bit of shout outs on TikTok, please? Because we've got some people.
Gate crash,
Monk,
Joe. Gate crash.
Strange,
absolutely.
Strange Monk is back, which is great. Also, I want to just give a shout out to Mosby, sent a hand heart on TikTok, which is brilliant. I got our #1 gifter badge, so thank you for that. You are now live on the broadcast, so thank you so much for that. Thank you for everyone that's liked it. We've got some likes, some good likes on the TikTok as well.
Excellent stuff. As we said, join us live each and every week. Right, count us down. 3, 2, 1. Inspiration Nation.
Inspiration Nation.
My God, is anyone even here with me?
Joe's in his own world.
Let me know what your biggest takeaway is from this conversation. I'd love to know. Put it in the comments below and I'll respond to every single comment because that's the commitment I make to you in this community. Also, don't forget to subscribe right over here because we need you to build this Inspiration Nation community to get the podcast out there and to help other people for free. And also don't forget to hit that bell right over here because if you hit that bell, then you're going to know when another videos go live. And don't forget to check out these videos right here next to me because those are other podcast episodes that can really help you out. I really, really appreciate it. And lastly, don't forget out to check the newsletter. The link is in the description below. That's where I can talk directly to you without through the YouTube, throughout the social, because you can have a direct communication channel with me through the email and you can get to know everything that's going on with Inspiration Nation, ask me questions and even give me suggestions on what you'd want us to talk about next. So I'd love to see you in the next video. So please click on those links. Please follow through. Please let's get this community building. I appreciate you. So until next time, I'll see you in the next video, Inspiration Nation, and I'll catch you guys later.